Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with something uncomfortable but necessary. Where you are in your life right now, that's on you. Not your parents, not your boss, not the economy, not your past. You. And before you get defensive, listen carefully, because this isn't an attack. This is the most empowering truth you'll ever hear. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, you take control of it. We live in a world where excuses are celebrated. I didn't have time, I wasn't lucky, I come from a small place, they didn't support me, they didn't see my potential. So what? Everybody has a story, everybody has a pain, everybody has a notches. So what? Everybody has a pain, everybody has obstacles. But winners don't use their story as an excuse, they use it as fuel. If you wake up every day blaming something outside of you, you are handing over your power. Most people don't like hearing this, but it's the truth that changes everything. You are where you are because of the choices you've made, not just the big dramatic ones, but the tiny, boring, everyday decisions you repeat without thinking. What time you wake up, what you do with your phone in the morning, who you listen to, what you ignore, what you avoid. Those small choices stack, and over time they build your current reality. It's easy to point at circumstances, the job market, family pressure, lack of money, lack of connections. And yes, those things are real. Life isn't fair. Some people start with advantages, others start with nothing. But here's the part that matters. Circumstances influence your life, they don't define it. Your response to them does. Two people can be in the exact same situation and end up in completely different places, simply because one takes ownership and the other looks for someone to blame. Every time you say, "I can't because," you're making a choice to stay safe, a choice to stay comfortable, a choice to avoid responsibility. And comfort feels good in the short term, but it slowly destroys long-term potential. On the other hand, choosing discipline over comfort feels painful today, but builds freedom tomorrow. Taking ownership doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything that went wrong. It means accepting that from this moment forward, your actions matter more than your excuses. You may not be responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do next. That mindset shift is everything. The moment you stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What can I do about it?" your life starts moving. People who win don't have better luck. They have better habits. They don't wait to feel motivated. They act while they're uncertain. They don't spend energy proving they're right. They spend energy getting better. They understand that no one owes them anything, and that belief pushes them to show up harder, learn faster, and adapt quicker. When you truly accept that your current position is the result of your past choices, something powerful happens. You stop feeling like a victim and start feeling like a builder. You stop waiting for permission and start creating momentum. Responsibility becomes freedom, because if your choices got you here, then new choices can take you somewhere better. Excuses feel harmless, but they are one of the most dangerous habits a person can develop. They sound logical, even responsible, yet they quietly steal momentum. An excuse is not just a reason you give to others, it's a story you repeat to yourself to justify staying exactly where you are. And the more you repeat it, the more real it feels, until it becomes your identity. Every excuse has one thing in common. It protects your ego. It says, "It's not my fault." And in the short term, that feels good. It saves you from discomfort, failure, and judgment. But the price you pay is progress, because the moment you accept an excuse, you shut the door on improvement. If it's not your fault, there's nothing for you to fix. "I don't have time" usually means I didn't prioritize it. "I'm not ready" often means I'm scared. "I missed my chance" really means I don't want to start at the bottom. Excuses are sneaky because they often wear the mask of realism. They sound mature, responsible, even smart. But realism without action is just fear dressed up in logic. The truth is, nobody who ever built something meaningful waited until conditions were perfect. They moved forward while juggling work, family, doubt, and exhaustion. The real danger of excuses isn't that they slow you down, it's that they become a habit. One excuse turns into 10, and soon you're explaining your life instead of living it. You start measuring effort by intention instead of results. You confuse being busy with being effective, And slowly, without realizing it, your standards drop. Progress begins the moment you eliminate excuses from your language. When you replace "I can't" with "how can I," your brain starts looking for solutions instead of exits. Responsibility forces creativity. Pressure forces growth. When there's no excuse available, action becomes the only option. High performers don't have fewer problems, they have fewer excuses. They don't waste energy justifying why something didn't happen. They focus on what needs to happen next. They accept the pain of effort today instead of the pain of regret tomorrow. Excuses promise comfort now, but they deliver disappointment later. And the longer you hold on to them, the harder it becomes to let them go. The moment you decide that excuses are no longer acceptable in your life, your standards rise, your actions sharpen, and progress finally has room to breathe. Blaming circumstances is one of the easiest traps to fall into because it gives you a sense of explanation without requiring change. When things don't work out, it's tempting to point at the economy, the system, your upbringing, your boss, your lack of resources, or the people around you. And yes, all of those things have an impact. But impact is not the same as control. The moment you decide that your circumstances are the main reason for your results, you quietly give up your ability to influence your future. Blame feels justified, but it's passive. Ownership is uncomfortable, but it's active. When you blame, you wait. When you take ownership, you act. Waiting keeps you stuck in the same loop, same complaints, same frustrations, same outcomes. Ownership breaks that loop by forcing a simple but powerful question: what can I do right now with what I have? No one chooses their starting point. You don't choose your family, your country, your early environment, or the challenges life throws at you. But you do choose your response. Two people can face the same setback and walk in opposite directions. One bitter and frozen, the other focused and moving. The difference is not talent or luck, it's accountability. Owning your outcomes doesn't mean denying reality. It means accepting reality without letting it define you. It means saying, "This is hard," without saying, "This is impossible." It means understanding that complaining might get you sympathy, but it will never get you progress. Progress comes from adaptation, learning, and persistence, not from explaining why something shouldn't be your responsibility. The fastest way to grow is to remove the word "they" from your vocabulary. They didn't give me a chance. They didn't support me. They didn't recognize my effort. The truth is, the world doesn't owe recognition. It responds to results. And results come from people who focus on execution, not entitlement. When you own outcomes, you stop looking for permission and start building leverage. You develop skills instead of excuses. You create options instead of excuses. You create options instead of waiting for opportunities. Even when things go wrong, and they will, you use the failure as data, not as proof that you should quit. Blame keeps you emotionally safe but strategically weak. Ownership feels heavy at first, but it makes you strong. Because once you accept that the outcome is yours, so is the power to change it. Most people hear the word responsibility and immediately think of stress, pressure, and weight. Imagine expectations they might fail to meet or standards they're not sure they can maintain. But responsibility, when understood correctly, is not a burden. It's leverage. It's the moment you realize that your life is not happening to you. It's being shaped by you. When you take responsibility, you stop waiting for permission. You don't need someone else to believe in you first. You don't need ideal conditions or perfect timing. Responsibility gives you the authority to act without approval. That's power, because the person who owns the problem also owns the solution. Avoiding responsibility feels easier in the short term because it removes pressure. If it's not on you, you don't have to try harder, learn more, or risk failing. But that relief is temporary. Over time, avoidance turns into frustration, resentment, and regret. You feel stuck, not because you lack ability, but because you gave away control. Taking responsibility flips that dynamic. Even when the situation isn't your fault, choosing to own it puts you back in the driver's seat. You stop asking, "Who messed this up?" and start asking, "What's my move?" That single shift transforms helplessness into momentum. Responsibility also sharpens focus. When everything is someone else's problem, effort gets scattered. But when you own the outcome, your actions become intentional. You manage your time better. You choose your habits more carefully. You become more honest with yourself about what you're avoiding and why. That clarity creates confidence, not the loud kind, but the quiet kind that comes from knowing you're doing the work. People often think responsibility limits freedom, but it actually creates it. The more you rely on others, circumstances, or luck, the less control you have. The more you rely on your own actions, the more options you create. Skill creates independence. Discipline creates flexibility. Ownership creates opportunity. The strongest people aren't the ones with the least pressure. They're the ones who carry pressure well. They understand that responsibility doesn't mean doing everything alone. It means refusing to be passive. It means choosing growth over comfort and action over excuses. Once you embrace responsibility as power, your mindset changes. Challenges stop feeling like threats and start feeling like tests. Problems become puzzles instead of walls. And instead of feeling overwhelmed by the weight of your life, you feel energized by the knowledge that your decisions actually matter. Big dreams are exciting. They make you feel inspired, ambitious, alive. But dreams alone don't change anything. Everyone dreams. The difference between people who talk about a better life and people who actually build one is what they do on an ordinary day when nothing exciting is happening. Real change is created in the small, repeated actions that most people overlook or underestimate. People love planning, visualizing, and talking about what they're going to do. It feels productive without requiring discomfort. But progress doesn't come from intention. It comes from execution. A single focused hour every day beats a perfect plan that never leaves your head. Consistency compounds even when the results are invisible at first. Daily actions shape identity. What you do repeatedly becomes who you are. When you show up for the work, even when you don't feel like it, you build trust with yourself. That self-trust becomes confidence. Not the kind that comes from hype or motivation, but the kind that comes from evidence. You know you can rely on yourself because you've proven it through action. Waiting for motivation is another trap. Motivation is emotional and unreliable. Some days it shows up, some days it doesn't. Discipline is different. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It's a system, not a mood. When you rely on systems instead of feelings, progress becomes predictable. The smallest actions matter more than people think. Reading 10 pages a day, practicing a skill for 30 minutes, making one uncomfortable call, posting one piece of content. These actions seem insignificant in isolation, but over weeks and months, they create massive separation. The problem is that they don't provide instant validation, so most people quit before the payoff arrives. Success is built in silence. No applause, no viral moments, just repetition. Boring, unglamorous repetition. Boring, unglamorous repetition. The people who win are not always the most talented. They're the most consistent. They understand that greatness is not a single decision, but a series of small decisions made correctly over time. When you focus on daily actions instead of distant dreams, pressure decreases and progress increases. You stop being overwhelmed by how far you have to go and start focusing on what you need to do today. And when today is handled well, tomorrow takes care of itself. No excuses means no more hiding, no more blaming, and no more waiting. The moment you take full responsibility for your life, you take back your power. Every choice you make, every action you repeat is shaping your future right now. You don't need perfect conditions or permission to start. You need ownership and consistency. If you want change, it begins with what you do today. Own it, act on it, and let your results speak for you. Thank you.